Hi there, I'm Christine Dunbar from speechmodification.com, and this is my Smart American Accent Training. Welcome to our Saturday live question and answer class. Each week I host this class on Saturdays where you can attend and type your questions in the chat. I'll answer them for you live. In the beginning of class, we always have a topic related to American English pronunciation or fluent speech. Today I want to talk about the phrase, "What have you been up to lately?" We're going to talk about how the written words differ from how the spoken speech actually sounds. This was a request from one of our viewers who wanted some help with this particular phrase, but it's a good example of some things that we do to link and to reduce sounds. So let's walk through this word by word. As you're joining the class, feel free to put your questions in the chat at any time. I'll come to those in a few minutes after we talk about this topic. And if you're watching this as a replay, you can leave your questions in the comments. I will get back to you with resources and answers, cover your word in a future video if I haven't already done so. Okay, so looking at what have you been up to lately? First of all, it's helpful to know where we're going to stress in this sentence. Basically, when we have a sentence, there's going to be some words that are more important. We stretch and hold those words longer, and they always have their clear sounds. And then for other words that aren't stressed, they tend to connect together and have shortened and reduced sounds. They're less important, and they need to go by faster. So in what have you been up to lately? The verb near the end is going to get stressed, also maybe lately. So the verb is have been up to, and the way we stress been up to, have been up to, we stress on the up of up to. And so that means that before the up, what have you been, and then up to lately, this part is all going to be linked together and have some reductions. Up to lately is not going to have a lot of reductions or changes, and we'll talk about why in a moment. So how do we make, basically this whole first part of the sentence needs to be about the same length as this up to is. And so if you think about up to, that's not very long. How am I going to get what have you been to be a similar length to up to or up to lately? It means I'm going to have to really go quickly. I'm going to have to reduce sounds and link things together. So first thing is that we link what and have, what have. There's two ways I can do this. I can say what have, where I use an unreleased T and I use the H consonant sounds. Most Americans, though, will drop this H and link the T to the vowel of have, would've. And so they say it more like a contraction. So we don't write this contraction would've, but we do say it. That means because we're going to the schwa vowel here, the sound, we're no longer going to use that unreleased T because we don't have a consonant that's following it. It becomes a flap. It sounds more like a D. So I've rewritten that for you here as would've. It's not a strong D, not would've. It's a flapped T or D, which is just doesn't have that same buildup of pressure and burst of air. So it's very light, would've. And the way we do contractions with the VE sounds is that we have a schwa. So we have a stressed schwa, we have a flap T, and an unstressed schwa. Looks like this, would've. So that's the first thing. Those link, the H drops, the vowel changes, we lose the have and becomes would've. And then we can do what have you with the true oo vowel, but sometimes we also change you to more of a ya, again with the schwa sound. So what have you. You can say this connected, but a little slower if it's hard to execute all of those changes quickly. That would sound like what have ya. And then I've just rewritten the word been with the letter I because, of course, in American English, we don't say been for this word. We say been with the lax if sound. What have you been? What have you been? So all of this comes together. What have you been up to? So now I might have a little rise in pitch and also a lot of more length on my up. What have you been up to? What have you been up to? Often to becomes a t, but in this case, in up to, because it's part of the stressed or more important part, we keep the true oo sound. So you don't want up to, up to. If I'm saying he's up to no good, up to no good, up to, or I'm going to the, there my oo of to becomes an This is an exception where we use a true oo here. And then we don't change anything in lately, except that you can hear, just generally to know about pronouncing lately, we use an unreleased T, first syllable stress, and then we go directly to that L sound, lately. What have you been up to lately? When you're practicing with a phrase like this and you want to get the rhythm and the relative sounds correctly, it's helpful to start on the stressed part of the sentence. So I can say up to lately, what have you been up to lately? That's going to help my brain recognize that I need length here and that all of this needs to be faster. What have you been up to lately? If I start at the beginning, I might be likely to say, what have you? I'm kind of reading it, thinking it word by word. If I start with up to lately, what have you been up to lately? You can hear that I'm naturally leading towards that stress part of up to in this phrase. So this rewriting, linking, and connecting, I show how to do this in my Real Talk videos. So I have a playlist called Real Talk where we look at written words versus spoken speech. I also have details about linking and reductions in our linking and reductions playlist. And you can get help for all of these techniques in our Real Talk course on speechmodification.com. That course walks you through understanding some of the main reductions that we do, and then how to use TV and movies to listen for and imitate this type of Real Talk or these types of reductions. So you can check that out on our website, speechmodification.com. It's called Real Talk. It's our Advanced American English course. We also have now a new playlist for shadowing practice where I also show you linking and reductions and stress so that you can listen and imitate conversations by shadowing and using these same techniques. So it's a great way to sound more natural, be more fluent, and understand how what you hear when you're listening to native speakers is a little different than what you see when you read native speech. Okay, wonderful to see so many of you here. Welcome to some of our new channel members. I have been gifting channel memberships. You can also purchase a channel membership. If you're interested in being eligible to receive a gift membership, I can't select you, but if you click on Allow Gifts, you can go to our community page and learn more about that. Then when I select, when I offer gift memberships, YouTube will select you from some of our subscribers and viewers to receive those. Also, if you have subscribed to the channel and you click on the join button, you can learn about what we offer channel members. We just have a faster turnaround time for your requests, some extra videos and lessons for channel members, and it's a great way to show your support if you're interested. I will be continuing to offer some additional gift memberships throughout the month of December. So welcome everyone. It's nice to see you here. I see you have some questions, so I'm going to go ahead and turn to those next. We have a question from Cambridge Academy about a good book of language to learn basic things. So I don't have a recommendation off the top of my head for a language book. I usually use online resources. I like EnglishPage.com for grammar. I also do have a list of different resources on my website on speechmodification.com. You can find some different resources for grammar, for conversational practice, etc., besides, of course, our main focus, which is pronunciation and accent. If you're interested in kind of the basics of pronunciation, I recommend my Sounds of English course on speech modification. That has videos and text lessons to teach you about all the different sounds of English. Okay, and Alejandra, one of our members, you're so welcome. Thank you for continuing to tune in to the channel. YouTube is selecting you as one of our loyal viewers and giving you those gift memberships. Okay, we have a question about the word nausea. So Brandon is saying he hears this pronounced different ways. So nausea, the first way would be first syllable stress, letters A, U say ah, like in saw. Nausea. The letter S says the zh sound, so that's kind of like a voiced SH. Sometimes I write that with ZH. Then we can use nausea, zh. We can just use a schwa at the end. So that kind of sounds like nausea. The other way that we would say this sometimes is using, instead of a zh sound, with just the zh and the schwa, we would say it with a z, nausea. So that sounds more like 3 syllables. Still first syllable stress. He was experiencing nausea, or he was experiencing nausea. I think those are the two most typical ways. Yeah. Good. Okay. We have a question about the word potential. Does it have a T sound after the N sound? And does the last syllable have SH or CH? So let's look at potential. So we have stress on the middle syllable. So we have a schwa, potential, and an SH sound. So it sounds like potential. So no T sound after the N. This T is part of the TI combination, which makes the SH sound. So like in nation or position, T doesn't always say T. When it's together with I at the end, it can say the sh sound. So potential. He has a lot of potential. Yeah, thank you. That's a good word, a good question. I'm sure that'll be helpful for other people as well. Welcome, everyone. If you're just joining, please feel free to put your questions in the chat at any time. Or if you're watching this later, you can leave a question in the comments, and I'll get back to you with an answer. We have a question about think, blink, sink, etc. That in the dictionary we have this I sound, and Brandon is saying he hears more of an E sound when he's listening to those. So if we were truly saying an E in these words, it would sound like sink or think. You can hear how that's not quite. I'm not saying like see the sink, sink. So try it thinks. It is an I sound, but what you're hearing is that when the I sound is followed by an NG, also if it's followed by an N, but in these words, these have a ng and a k sound. So for think, for example, you'd see the I, the ng, and the k. This ng sound raises up the vowel. So when I say think, I'm not really doing the same thing as if I'm saying this or it. Excuse me. When there's not a nasal sound following the vowel, I can keep that a little bit lower. But when I have to do ing, ink, think, ing, it does affect how my vowel sounds. It raises it up a little, but it doesn't get tense. It's not ing, it's ing. So you should be able to hear what you're noticing is correct. It doesn't sound quite the same as it does in other contexts, but it is the I vowel. It should be a lax vowel. It's just maybe a little bit higher, more nasal because my back of my tongue is lifting, getting ready for the ing, for the ng sound. Ing, it, ing. You can hear how the vowel does sound a little bit different, but you don't need to change it. You need to try to go for the I sound, and it will naturally raise up and become more nasal because it's followed with this ing sound. So I do have a video talking about this. That also happens on words with the a, like thank, and with the like strength, where they're just going to sound a little higher. So this will sound a little closer to the the strength will sound a little closer to the I. They're all just raised a little and higher, but you aim for making the same vowel, and just as if you're making your ng sound correctly, it will just naturally raise that vowel up a little bit. And you need to resist going too high. I don't want think or thank or strength. You don't want to let it become tense or become too high. So that's why trying to match like it's in the sync will be helpful, and staying away from that tense E sound. Great question and very good observation. Your ear was correct, but there's a range, of course, between the E and the I. It's just a little bit raised up for the I when it's followed by the NG sound. Okay, wonderful. Okay. So we had a question about restrictions on YouTube might not be allowing you to purchase a membership. I'm happy to give you some of those perks and support you. You can contact me via email. My email is christine@speechmodification.com. You could purchase an online course on my online courses if that's allowed in your country. I guess, unfortunately, I don't have control over who can access membership materials, but I can direct you towards where those same or similar materials would be in my online courses. And yeah, my apologies for, I think there are some US laws that may boycott or may be blocking membership capabilities from certain countries. So I'm glad you're able to still tune in and be part of the class, and I'd be happy to extend some of those privileges to you via another means. Thanks for your question, for reaching out. Okay. We have a question about whether or not the word new has the same vowel as the word boo, and it does. In American English, we say this new with the same sound. It's just the n sound and the u sound, just like boo is the b sound and the u sound. In British English, they may say new, so they have a gliding y sound in there like we do in the word few. But in American English, when the u is after an n, we typically drop this y sound. So I do have a video talking about new, also do, these words, which words have just the u sound and which words have the u sound, like in few. So I can direct you to that after class. But to your question, new does not have the gliding y sound. It is the same as boo or shoe in English. It's just, the rule is basically following certain consonant sounds, like the D and the N. We drop that y sound, and with some, like with M, like music, and F, like few, we keep that U sound. There are some exceptions to those rules, so it's helpful to learn just the most common words, which ones have U and which ones have U. I talk about that in my video as well as in our Sounds of English course. I walk you through those differences between U and U and where you'll find each of those sounds. Great question. Thank you. Okay, we have a question about a little bit. So a little bit. So in this phrase, we're stressing on little, and because the T's are followed by an unstressed syllable, we use a flap here. I often rewrite it with D's because it's just like in the word middle. We do the same kind of, it's not a D sound, it's a flap sound, but it's voiced like a D, and we're just gentle on that D sound. So little, little. The LE, the L is, the E is silent, so it is kind of like a little bit of a schwa sound, before my L. So you can think about it as little, dull. Maybe if there's a little vowel in there, it's the schwa or the sound. And we link it together, so it sounds like a little bit, with this, the length on the li, a little bit. I'm a little bit tired. I'm a little bit busy. I'm a little bit, he's a little bit strange, and whatever comes to mind there. Yeah, hopefully that answers your question about how to do that phrase. Great question. Okay, let's see. We have a question about the word comfortable. So this is one that you'll hear some different ways that we reduce it and say it quickly. We rarely say comfortable. So one reduction would be saying like comfortable, where this might be a flap again, so it might sound like comfortable. We also sometimes say comfortable, where we switch around the order of the R, the T, and the R sounds. Comfortable. Also comfortable. I think this one, comfortable, is probably the most common. He's comfortable. We can also do comfortable. It's very comfortable, or a comfortable chair. So basically, Americans don't typically pronounce this quote unquote correctly, but these pronunciations have become correct rather than comfortable. It's never correct to do a 4 here. This is an example of letters OR saying the ER sound. When they're unstressed, like in information, we don't want that to sound like information, but rather information. The or letters OR are the unstressed sound, information. So comfortable and information, those ORs say ER. Yeah, that's a tricky word. I do have a video about it that breaks down a couple of options for how to say it, finding whichever is most comfortable for you. I think using a reduced 3-syllable version is pretty typical for native speakers. Okay, yeah, challenging word for sure. That one comes up a lot. Okay. We have a question about letter and later. So both of these have the flap sound in the middle that I sometimes rewrite with a D or with 2 Ds. Actually, I'm going to write this with AY. So the difference between these two, they're both stressed on the first syllable. Second syllable sounds the same. The difference is that letter has the vowel, like in red, and later has the a diphthong, like in say or day. So to practice making the difference between letter and later, I recommend using a matching word, like I read, a red letter, or I read your letter, and say later, or a day later. If you say the a in say or day, it's easy to get that a sound, holding it longer, because there's nothing following it. So often in a word like say, you'll use the correct a diphthong, but then in later, sometimes people lose that a. It sounds a little more like later, so they might be using this instead of this, or even using this. And so for letter, that vowel is relaxed. It's a lax vowel. It's a little bit a. It doesn't slide. For it's a little more open. than the A. The A starts a little higher, A, and it glides up. Whereas the is just static. Letter, lay, later. So again, trying say later and read letter should help you, because between say and read, it's a little clearer what that sound difference is. It's harder in a word like letter and later. I may have a video for this specific pair. I also have one for pepper and paper, which have the same phenomenon, and that you can find on my contrasting words minimal pairs playlist. If you go to our channel page and look at the playlists, you'll find that that's one of the top playlists, because it's helpful for a lot of people to hear these types of contrasts in order to help them get those vowel sounds correct and to get tricky words that are similar to each other correct. Great question. Thank you a lot for that one. Okay, we'll take a few more questions and then we'll be wrapping up for today. I will be back tomorrow with another word of the day, as well as next Saturday we'll have our live question and answer class again. We'll be taking a little bit of a break towards the end of the year for the holidays, so there'll be some Saturdays where you won't see me, but I will have some bonus classes, pre-recorded classes for you on those days. And of course, as always, when you have questions, you can leave them in comments on any of my videos, and I will respond to you in the comments, add your words to my list to cover in a future class, or if you're a channel member, cover your words in our members only class, or do a video for you within a shorter time frame to show you my thanks for your support as channel members. Okay. Question about the state name Utah. So let's look at how to pronounce that. So for Utah, so in Utah, we do actually stress on the U. So U is longer, but we do have some stress on ta. So it's not like Utah. So a word like, for example, the word user, we would have the U and then the zer would be really short. In Utah, we're also stressing on ta, secondary stress. Utah. I think we tend to use the ah vowel here, even though we're spelling it with AH. So it's like in the verb saw. So you might think about saying something like, I saw Utah. So we have the y, u, ah. So I saw you in Utah. That might be a phrase that would be helpful. Or I saw Utah. Yeah, it's strange. The spelling doesn't really match very well the sounds. That would be a good one for me to cover. I am working on some videos for the different names of different states, and I have a few on my playlist for that, but I don't believe I have Utah yet. So thank you for that question and that suggestion. Okay, we have a question about fit, feet, and feed. So different vowels here and different final sounds. In fit, we just have the I vowel. It's going to be lax and also a little shorter because of the t sound. In feet, also a little shorter but slightly longer than fit because the E is held a little longer duration than the I, but mainly this one is going to be lax. This one is going to be tense. And then in feed, this one is going to be the longest because it's followed by a voiced D sound. So if I'm just saying fit by itself, I can say it with a released T, fit, or I can say it with a stopped unreleased T, fit, in which case it's going to sound short. And then with feet, same thing. I can say feet or feet, not releasing that T. Same thing with feed. I can say feed, but most likely you're not going to hear that D. It's just going to be feed. So the difference between feet and feed, if I'm not saying the T and D, feet, feed, is that I hold the vowel longer in feed than I do in feet. Also between fit and feet, lax and tense, slightly shorter than this one. So that's kind of a duration. Shortest, medium, longest. I do have a video recently that I covered this in a lesson talking about E and I in detail. the length, how the vowel context, the consonant following the vowel makes a difference in the vowel duration. So you can check that out on the channel. I'm also in our vowels challenge. I've been working on the vowels, and we've covered the E and I fairly recently, so you can see that in our vowels playlist. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, all of these sounds are covered in detail in our Sounds of English course that can really help you differentiate vowels like those. Okay, we have a question about comparing these sounds with each other. So the schwa, the sound, the unstressed schwa, short and the I sound. So they sound similar, but they do differ in position in the mouth. So great question. So the I sound, when it's unstressed and short, and the sound, when it's unstressed and short, these are very similar. So if I'm saying something like return, that starts with the I sound, when it's not the stressed vowel in the word, we stress on turn, this is a very reduced vowel. So both of these can be reduced. Actually, this schwa can only be reduced. The I can be long in a word like did or didn't. Then it's going to be more likely to be higher than the schwa. So this I is higher than this sound. When I say like in dud or such, my tongue is relatively flat. It's more open. My mouth is more open than it is for I. So if I'm saying stitch and such, stitch is higher, such is lower. Did, dud, bit, but, I and there's a difference in terms of the height and the forwardness. This is central and more open. This is higher, but they're both lax. The and the there is a maybe tiny difference in position, but you can consider these basically the same sound. What the difference is here is in duration. This one is longer because it'll be stressed, and this one is shorter because it'll be unstressed. So for example, in a word like above, where we have the unstressed schwa and then the stressed schwa, it's just short, long, above, above, above. The shortness also contributes to not being a clear vowel. So here it's clear, I can hold it, it's in a specific position. Above, that first sound can fall somewhere in the range between the schwa and the I. So these short, reduced vowels in a word like above or in return, technically in the dictionary, return, it's going to be the unstressed I. If I said it return, you shouldn't hear a big difference between return and return. Because those are reduced vowels. They're not clear, and they can fall somewhere in this range. So there is a lot of similarity there. Some dictionaries will even show a schwa or an I. You'll see it denoted differently in different dictionaries in these unstressed syllables. It doesn't matter too much which vowel I use. But between the stressed and the stressed I, like in bit and but, there is a clear difference and a clear position. Yeah, that's a great question. I talk about that concept a few places as well, in a few videos, and in our vowels playlist and our Sounds of English course. That has to do with both the vowel sounds and the rhythm of the words. Okay, great. I'm going to take one or two more questions, and then we'll need to wrap up for today. It's great to see so many of you here and wonderful questions. Thanks for being a part of the class. And I hope I can get to at least one question from each viewer, but if I missed one of your questions, if you'd like to rewrite it for me in the comments after, I can go through and answer it and give you some resources or add it to my list to cover in a future class, or we can cover it in next week's class. Okay. So yes, you're correct. Those sounds are very close to each other. I hope that answered your question. We have a question about how to pronounce some of the officers in connected speech with reductions. So in this case, we're going to stress on the off of officers. So some of the is going to get elided together. It sounds like some of the. We don't really change any of these vowels, but they're just going to be quick and somewhat reduced. So rather than some of the officers. So actually, in this case, because officers starts with a vowel, we will probably we will use an E here, some of the officers. And because we're going to officers, because we're linking these two, and I'm moving from the E to the I'm going to have a little bit of a gliding y sound happen there. So some of the officers. I don't need to make it really strong, not the officers with a y, strong y, but we just naturally, as we link those two in vowel to vowel linking, throw that gliding sound in. It's how we connect E to yeah. Some of the officers. Some of the officers were there. Some of the officers said that. Yeah, thank you for that request. Okay, question about the word cemetery. We have first syllable stress. Letter C says the S sound. We have the F vowel like in red. This letter E is going to be an unstressed schwa sound. Sounds like So we have sem, Letters A, R say air in this word, cemetery. Because of that, they're a clear vowel. We do a true T here instead of a flap or stop sound. Terry, and then we have a short but tense E sound. So cemetery, true T. Yeah, that's a good word, cemetery. Thank you for that request. Sorry, I misspelled it. ER says the air sound, cemetery. I was thinking about that air sound. That's probably why I wrote it as an AR, but sorry for that spelling error, cemetery. Okay, wonderful. Let's see if I've answered something for everyone. We did have a question about teacher. So in American English, we do say the sound for this unstressed at the end, not teacher, no sound, but rather teacher, paper, teacher, weather, etc. We don't want it to be strong, not teacher, but also it still needs to keep that position. So pretty much 99.9% of the time, if you see letter R in American English, you're going to hear the sound. We're going to have that R position. It's British English that will use the schwa or the relaxed sound in the unstressed R position. Great. Okay. Well, I may have missed. So I'll do one quick more question about Colorado. So for Colorado, Colorado. Stress is on ra, but ka has some secondary stress. So Colorado. Both ahs and then a schwa here and a true o at the end. Colorado. There may be some debate among native speakers about how to pronounce that. So I'll do a little bit more research and cover that in my in an upcoming video along with Utah when I'm talking about state names. You will find that there's some disagreement sometimes. So it's always, for me, helpful to see what the people native to that state tend to say. And of course, state names change over time. They've come in from native languages or from Spanish or from other historical place names. So you will hear a little bit of variety and change on those. But thank you for that request. Thanks everyone for being part of class today and for your wonderful questions and your support. It's nice to see so many of you here week after week. I will be back again next Saturday with our live question and answer class, and tomorrow we'll have our regular Word of the Day video. Again, if you're watching this later on, feel free to leave your questions in a comment, and I apologize if I didn't get to every question here today in our live class. Well, we've run out of time, so I look forward to seeing you again in a future class. Thanks for a wonderful class. Enjoy your weekend, and I look forward to seeing you in our next class. I'm Christine Dunbar from speechmodification.com. Remember, if you want to sound like a native speaker, you can do it. speechmodification.com. Bye, everyone. Hope to see you again soon.